Your initial reaction, Bill, to Chris Paul, Clipper window closing, now he's a Rocket.
He's a quitter. That's all I can think of, Colin. He had the richest owner in basketball. He had the entertainment capital of the world. He was the leader of the team. He was a star in a star-driven town. He had Jerry West there, and he walked out on all of them. And everybody's talking about Houston today, and are the Rockets any better? I could give a darn about Houston. Chris Paul left the Clippers in tatters. I mean, he really did. And they were going to rebuild the franchise around him. They had as much chance of winning in a couple of years as they do in Houston, and he just walked away. He walked away from all of it after being the one guy, the leader, the guy who professed to be the guy who loved the town and loved the team. And he was a symbol. Colin, he was, after the Donald Sterling debacle, Chris Paul was the face of the rebirth of the Clippers. And now they're not the Lakers, and they'll never be the Lakers. They'll never be close to the Lakers. But they had their own little niche, and they had it going. And now that's all gone. And it's him, because this is not Blake Griffin's team. Never was, never will be. Not DJ's team, not DeAndre Jordan's team. It's Chris Paul. And he walked away from all of them.
Let me defend Chris Paul. That he is now, over the next 4 years, still potentially in his prime. Now it's legacy time. And LeBron's winning, Durant's winning, all these stars are winning. And he watches Melo, and he see how he's scooted up. And he's watched LeBron and Durant and seen how mobility has helped them. And he says to himself, it's a 3-ball league. Blake and DeAndre can't shoot, and we're locked into those. Or I could go to maybe the second-best shooter in the league, James Harden, with a coach that's very pro-offense and still younger than Doc Rivers, and that Chris Paul simply looked around the NBA forest and saw that mobility and playing with shooters wins more games, and he wanted to win more games.
He could have gotten that if he stayed with the Clippers, if he'd given them time to figure it out. They were going to trade DeAndre Jordan. They were going to let Blake Griffin walk. They were going to build everything around him. He could have had that here. And let me tell you something. James Harden in Houston, better beware. Chris Paul, good guy off the court. On the court, he's like Kobe Bryant, which is very good, but it's also he has to have the ball. And I'm going to see how that works with James Harden. He did not get along with Blake. Didn't get along here at all. They didn't never work out together. He's a very, very competitor. He's all about Chris Paul, and I'm just telling you, I don't see it working any better there than it did here, unless they get a third piece. Unless they get a third guy in there, and they might. But I don't see it working any better. He had a chance to do it here. I mean, how does this make Doc Rivers look? Doc Rivers is the basketball player whisperer. He's the guy that gets the stars and keeps the stars. He was the one thing they had that the Lakers didn't have. He had that credibility, those rings. He had all that stuff. This makes all of them look bad.
Jerry West recently hired. There's a report he was not in the room to meet Chris Paul. Do you make anything of that, Bill?
Yeah, we just don't know what Jerry, and I've been writing about this, trumpeting how great it is the Clippers got him. We're still not sure how much Doc lets his voice be heard. We don't know that. As you know as well as anybody, Colin, Doc, we all love Doc. He likes to control things. He likes to run the show. I'm not so sure if Jerry would be involved. I can't believe Jerry couldn't have talked to CP3 and let him know. However, there's also a feeling out here that this was a decision made 2 or 3 months ago, that this was always on his mind, that CP3 had already decided by the time Blake got hurt in the middle of the season that this wasn't going anywhere anyway, and he was getting out of town. There's a feeling that I think he gave the Clippers quietly that maybe this was always going to happen. So I don't know how much Jerry West could have affected him, and you'd like to have known. But I'd like to see what kind of impact Jerry can have. Obviously, zero on Chris Paul. Chris Paul had zero influence on whether Jerry had no influence on this at all.
Bill Plaschke, National Columnist of the Year, LA Times for a long time. The Lakers, now here is the Clippers not implode, but as they reorganize or reorg, the Lakers suddenly are very interesting. And there's the Paul George story today that Houston is interested in Paul George. And that'd be very tasty if I'm Paul George and I see Chris Paul, I see James Harden, I see Eric Gordon, or they could trade Eric Gordon to Indy, who's a very good player. Now, the Lakers are sitting there, Brook Lopez, Brandon Ingram's growing, Lonzo Ball. Do you think this situation with Chris Paul, they can own back the market, Paul George, Celtics involved, Do you think the Lakers let this organically play out in a year with Paul, or sense pressure, urgency, and go after him and give up stuff?
Oh, I think they're trying like hell to get stuff. They're trying to. I mean, they already own the. In Colin, you know this. The Lakers already own the market. They don't need to worry about. They're not worried about the Clippers, but they're worried about the West, and they're worried about losing Paul George. Yes, I guarantee you, Magic Johnson is doing everything he can to get Paul George before he goes anywhere else. He knows what happens when you go to championship teams, potential championship teams. He knows how players can get wooed and wowed and end up staying where they're at. He needs to get him now. He needs to trade Randall, Clarkson, trade a couple of those kids they got in the draft, the Kuzma kid, the Josh Hart kid, trade some of those assets. I think the Lakers definitely want to get him now. And I think they're worried that if he goes to Houston or someplace he can win, have a good time, they'll never see him.